This one's from Ryan. Happy holidays. Having heard all the recent talk about the AI in the media and art, how do you view
Okay.
AI in art as it relates to copyright? Saw a tweet thread about this relation to Disney and Mickey Mouse.
All right, I'm tagging in, Coach.
All right, all right.
I curated this one from the potential merge questions. So I'm going to use this question as an onboard to say other stuff that I was planning on saying, but didn't get full preparation for. But I want to start the conversation. In some of the comments on last week's WAN, there was some valid criticism of my stance on a few AI things. There was a few different comments talking about how I seemed quite pro GPT or large language model AI things, and I was quite anti art model bots.
Oh, okay.
So I was talking about how I didn't like AI art. I did, and in the same show, I was talking about how I did like GPT.
Sure.
And people were saying that that was fairly hypocritical. And I think from
okay.
watching the show and the things that were talked about in the show, I think that stance was quite fair, to be completely honest. I think part of that reason is because I haven't dove far enough into my reasons for that. And to be completely transparent, a fair amount of my opinion on that at that time was basically a vibe check.
Right.
I hadn't really dove into it enough. I have dove into it a bit now. I still don't think it's enough. And I think one of the reasons why it's not enough is I think this is actually just a ridiculously complicated topic.
Well, yeah, sure.
Like it's really, really hard. I think there are some problems.
There's lots of problems.
One of them is that the training depth is highly questionable on some of the AI art generators, to the point where I have found examples where it is trained on one artist. And when you ask it to output different things, it basically just outputs pretty much exactly what that artist did.
Yeah.
I have also done some stuff, I was talking to you about this, where I search for a specific term that is highly related to an extremely famous piece of art. And I've gotten a bunch of different AI art generators to output pretty much just the original with some extremely minor changes.
Like, hey, we didn't copy it. Haha.
Yeah, and this is like, I'm not giving it a ton of terms. I'm not being super, super hyper specific so that if you asked pretty much any human artist to do this, they would have output pretty much the exact same thing. I'm not saying like draw me a cogwheel and pretty much everyone draws the same cogwheel. I'm not saying draw me a cogwheel at this exact orientation and then blah, 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 with this many spokes, all that kind of stuff. I'm giving somewhat vague things and not very many. Okay, I'll just say the term. I said Arab girl green eyes.
Yeah.
That's
Gee,
it.
I wonder what image you end up with.
And that's all I gave them. So it has a race, it has a color of eyes, and it has a gender. That's it.
Wait, you mean this one?
And that's I believe that's the original.
Yes.
And these AI art programs were putting out pretty much that at like, different angles and stuff.
Yeah.
But like,
maybe a different
wow.
color of, robe or whatever.
I did this like almost immediately after last WAN, so it's been a little while, but if I remember correctly, she has freckles.
Sure.
And like every single one, she had freckles in it. I don't know how common that is, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But like, wow, it was or Afghan. I don't know. Sorry.
Afghan.
I did this like a week ago. I don't remember the exact search term. I lifted basically this scenario from somebody on Twitter, but they deleted their post. I wanted to share it on the show. They deleted or privated or they did something with their post and then I couldn't get it back again because I wanted to attribute they also had photos of it happening and they had everything and it was really good. But I think they got a bunch of heat from the people that are very pro AI art and they decided to private everything, which is totally that's fine, but I just wanted to use that and I couldn't, so I redid it. I don't remember exactly what the search terms were. Anyways, that photo was re-spat out by a ton of them. Then I dove into it and figured out that there was one particular artist that was upset because someone had trained an AI art model off of only their art. And like, there's all this weird stuff going on. I think the AI art space is very murky right now. I think there are ways to do it right. I don't think it's automatically bad.
Yep.
I think there have been a lot of bad examples.
Are we having this conversation less around ChatGPT because it is far less obvious what it was trained on?
I think so.
Because writing is another like in danger profession that has been under attack for a long time. Like this is not new. I was reading a really interesting article recently about how the proliferation of celebrity kids books, not just celebrity, but also I'm adding this part. This was not part of the article, but celebrity kids books and also old kids books has made it really difficult for new artists and new writers to break out into the children's literature space. Because why would you go and invest in publishing a new artist's book when you can just print more copies of The Cat in the Hat? Or, you know, I don't even know if Martha Stewart has a children's book or whatever, but like, or you could just get someone to ghostwrite Martha Stewart Counts Turkeys or whatever, right?
Sure.
And that's so much more likely to end up in the checkout aisle at the grocery store than some random thing. And it's kind of like killing creativity. Now, I want to make it very clear. The ABCs of gaming was not a cash grab, was not particularly profitable compared to what else I could have spent my time on for how many we've sold. And it's about met my expectations in terms of sales. And I did not have it ghostwritten. I actually wrote it, every word. I'm not saying that that's like hard and I'm some kind of like master poet or anything like that. I'm just saying that it was not just a marketing gimmick for the book. I just wanted it to exist, so I made it. That's kind of how we do things. But Gibberim in Flowplane chat says Kim Kardashian's Daddy Isn't Feeling Well. Is that an actual book? Shut up.
Wait, what?
No. Okay. I thought that might have actually been a children's book. Anyway, so the point is that writing is another art form that has absolutely been under attack. And I wonder if the conversation is just different because examples of plagiarism are so much more difficult to point at and go, that was obviously trained on that article.
Yeah, it is far easier with art. And that's another thing that I came to was like, is GPT better or is it just harder to tell? And I have some minor counters to that. Someone in Floatplane chat just said, I put Afghan Girl Green Eyes into Dolly too, and it's super similar. It's like, yeah. Code is the one way that I've kind of poked that. So something that I started doing was I started looking at Googling questions where you would expect a code output and finding the top responses and then asking GPT chat the same question and getting a different response.
Oh, okay.
That did happen.
But,
and I haven't gotten a bunch of this produced. And this is where I'm saying, like, this is not a finalized conversation, and I'm very interested in people continuing to dive into these things. And I think it matters because I think pretty much now is when we need to figure out how all this stuff is going to work. But I have heard claims that people have gotten code outputs and then people have asked it to, or they got code outputs and they asked it to include comments, and the comments included unique things from like people who wrote original code that was highly related, like names and stuff.
Weird.
I have never
spooky.
I've never seen an example of that, which has me a little sus.
Right, okay.
Because almost every time anyone's like, oh, look at this thing GPT did, they have screenshotted it. And I have not seen screenshots of this, but I have heard of it.
A screenshot, even if you had it, could easily be faked. So there's that.
Too, especially with text, because you can just inspect element and just boop. And people have done that with GPT. I know that for sure. I was planning to come on this show and talk about how GPT had been like cut down very substantially in what it was able to do. And then literally yesterday, they like patched it and now it's not. So I don't know. I was like gonna come on the show and complain about how it just tells you it can't do anything all the time.
Yeah.
And then you have to fight it to get it to do it. And then they updated it, and part of the patch notes is like it will do things more often instead of saying that it can't. And I'm like, oh.
All right.
Well, that's cool. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really complicated question. Does making it so that your model is trained off of everything instead of one person make it better?
Or does that just
My-
make it more plagiarized?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
My gut kind of says I don't know if it makes it okay, but it does feel a little bit better, because when I saw the AI art model that was trained off of one person,
Mm-hmm.
that was gross to me. That was like really not cool or okay at all, because you were genuinely getting very similar things. And I'm not just saying this to defend the artist. The originals were definitely better. They were clearly better. You could see that there was a vision for it. There was an idea for it, and it was more actualized. Like, this is someone who's clearly very good at art. But the AI art was pretty good. If I hadn't seen the originals, I would have thought the AI art was like really solid, you know? So